Well, thank you so much, James, for joining me today. Appreciate you being available for this interview before our event on May 6th. So, to start out with, I just want to ask you, why did you want to be involved with the SCORE E3 conference?
Yeah. So if it helps to give a little bit about my background, but yeah. So and really, my background, I could probably talk a while about it, but kind of 24, 25 years in leadership management, executive management in the military, government, small businesses, and then nonprofits, and now boards as well. So actually, I'm on a school board as well. Going through that, my 21 years in the Navy, how as a helicopter pilot deployed around the world. We could talk more about that stuff, but Afghanistan, and I could probably talk about, transitioning, going from the military to kind of the business side, but really, it kind of ties into why I wanted to speak with this. It gets back to, back in the Navy, and I think a lot of people in business, whether they're in as a job or business, they kind of think they're comfortable and they want to stay there. And I saw this with people in the Navy where they thought, oh, the Navy will pay for something. Or I'm at my employer, that my employer should pay for something for me to do. And thinking that they're indispensable, and I told people that worked for me in the Navy, hey, you need to have a plan when you leave. And they said, oh, I'm staying in. I said, yeah, but eventually the Navy is going to say it's time for you to go. Just like an employer will say the same thing. Maybe you get too old, or your skills aren't that good, or maybe they don't need you anymore for whatever reason. You just have to keep your skills improving. And that's one of the reasons why, I got this ticket to Afghanistan. I thought while I was a flight instructor, I thought, oh, I'm in a perfect spot. I'm not supposed to be deploying. And then they said, hey, we have a free ticket for you to go to Afghanistan. Help us out there. I said, oh, okay, great. And initially, my thought was always, well, hey, I don't need to get a master's degree. The Navy will pay for it if they want me to get that. But then, and I had some friends who were doing this, who were looking at different places to go, whether it was Harvard or Wharton, stuff like that. And they had all the comparisons that I said, no, I'm not going to do that. After I got that, I said, hey, what's that? What's that place you're doing the master's with?
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought was, well, if I come back from Afghanistan all messed up, I need to have a way to transition. And so I kind of made up in my mind, no matter what, I'm gonna get this thing done really fast. So I got about three-quarters of an MBA done in Afghanistan, came back and finished it up. I did end up staying in the Navy for another 10 years or so, but that was kind of the impetus behind looking at business and looking at other things to do.
So
And
you finished part of your master's while you were in Afghanistan, three-quarters of
yeah,
it. That's a lot
yeah,
of multitasking.
yeah, it was pretty much four classes at a time. Four classes, so basically full time, a full-time master's degree while being deployed.
Wow.
Yeah,
There's some
and
training for entrepreneur.
yeah, and so when people say I don't have time, I said, well, let me tell you this.
Mhm.
And granted, it's a little easier when you don't have family, because I mean I have a family, but when you're deployed and you have nothing else to do, it is kind of easier to do that. But when you're at home, it can be more challenging.
Mm.
So, so anyway, transitioning to that, getting into business, I was for the next probably 10 years, I was constantly looking at, okay, what can I do to have a business and not, I didn't want to be stuck being employed by someone. Not that that's a bad thing, but for me, I just wanted to have that freedom to have my own business and not be stuck. So, I mean, I read probably every book in the library at some point. I mean, just getting ideas and things like that. And it's essentially started the business I'm in now, uh, about 4 years before leaving, getting out. Then the last 2 years, it really took off. So, so why do I want to speak? I mean, uh, why did I want to speak to this audience? And there's a number of things I could speak on, from kind of the leadership aspect, the motivation aspect in the Navy, and I love talking to young kids, and I mean adults, and just challenging them to think about the potential that they have. And I think a lot of people get stuck like, oh, I can't do this. I said, well, what do you want to do? I feel like a lot of people stop dreaming about what they want to do, and they're stuck thinking that whatever I'm doing now is what has to be. And on that note, uh, entrepreneurs and small business owners, I think, are the people, to me, are the ones who are dreaming big. They're dreaming of what they can do. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really seen that, to me, one of the big challenges is going from small business to, okay, getting started and going and having that, steady stream of revenue and clients coming in, customers coming in, getting that next step. One of the major issues I constantly hear is, well, growth. So how do you get customers and clients? And this is one thing I usually ask people whenever someone talks to me. I say, well, how do you get customers now? How do you currently get customers? And you may have an answer for that, but the number one answer I hear almost every time from people who aren't advertising is word of mouth and referrals.
Right. Hmm.
So, which is great, and you need that. But for the people who need growth and who need steady leads, steady customers, it's there's no way to turn that switch on to turn up, hey, we need more word of mouth this week. We need more referrals this week. Ideally, you should be getting that, but you just can't turn it up. With that said, that's our business helps people with that, but that's one of the things. And I kind of tell people that it's I think I have five, I call it the five keys to growth, five keys to getting more calls, more quotes, and more clients or customers. So, and I mean, some businesses may not have quotes, but they have something like that. So in any case, it usually works for most businesses. And I think if people hear this type of a presentation, hear that it's basically a master class on those strategies. Hey, this is what you need to do. This is how to get those customers.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, not every business may need to give a quote, but
Right.
you usually need some sort of fact finding
Yeah.
interview or conversation with your clients. Even if your prices are set, if it's a service based business and these are my prices, this is what I
Exactly.
charge, you may need to find out, very similar to giving a quote. If somebody needed a fence built, you need to find out what their expectations are. You need to find out what the actual service is that they need. And so it is
Right.
very similar
Right.
along those lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, and some people, most businesses, we'd rather them just go online and pay or
Mhm.
or hey, check out. And for a grocery store, that works okay. For a store, that works good. But if it's a service based or even some other things, if they're not pre-sold, then it's going to require some kind of interaction. Really, it's some way to get your name out there. And
Yeah.
here's kind of the big key is people talk about the word of mouth referrals, but the other part is I constantly hear this, well, this week the economy is not good, doing well. The economy's bad, or it's a bad season. It's a bad time of year. I said, well, look down the street. There's people that are spending money. Now,
Hmm.
if you're in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, that may be true. But I would say if people have a good product and a good service, and most people do, that the issue is not the economy. The issue is people don't know you.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the number one issue. You always hear about this. Oh, I never knew about that restaurant. I never knew it's the hole in the wall restaurant. Well, you never knew about it because they didn't advertise.
Yeah, I have a
So,
background in marketing and advertising, and it was always a joke to us, the companies that would, hey, I'm having a going out of business sale. I need to buy some advertising. And it was like, well,
yeah,
if you had bought that before, you may not be having a going out of business
right,
sale.
right, exactly.
You talk a lot, you were talking about being able to dream and not always being stuck in the what I'm doing now is what I'm always going to do. And
Yeah,
even with entrepreneurs, we do often, our job becomes a lot of our identity. Our business is like a child. But like you're saying, there's so many different stages of that. And in that growth, when you go from maybe being the independent owner operator to then knowing that there's a dream of having employees or expanding in
right,
some way or teaching.
right.
So, um, is there a part of that that you're looking at, kind of coaching people along too?
Yeah, I mean, and for us, once people get the piece with the marketing, which is major piece, I would say any business, under a few million in revenues, they probably have a marketing sales issue.
Hmm.
So obviously you need the next systems issues. You're going to have systems with employees and, not trying to run everything yourself, like the E-Myth uh, talks about. But I mean, those an issue, even for people who have those issues, I mean, I talked to people who are spending quite a bit on advertising, but they don't know if it's working. I'm like, so you're spending this much money per month, but you don't know if it's working. So they're not tracking those types of things and just put a lot of stuff out there and see what works.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and there's so many ways to track that now. It's
yeah,
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 you can see if somebody walked in your business, if they saw an ad somewhere, walked in your business
mhm,
later. So yeah, that's very
right,
trackable. And like you were talking about with getting more customers and clients, and that's such an important thing that even when business is good, that's a really
mhm,
important time to still be getting those people because you're not in that high pressure, I need you
yeah,
sales
yeah,
part. So,
yeah. And I mean, we've seen people who come to us late saying, I need this much now. Like, well, this does take a little bit of time. You can amp things up pretty quick, but if you're having this many issues, there's probably some other problems as well.
mhm.
So, yeah, I think people delay. They start out thinking, I have this great idea, which is good, and I have a great product, or I have a great skill. I mean, are you familiar with the E-Myth book?
I think I know what you're talking about, but I have not actually read it. It sounds like I should.
Right. So I mean, it's someone who makes, let's say they're a great cook or they're a great cupcake maker or whatever, and someone says, well, you should sell these. You should start a bakery. And that sounds great until they realize that they just like making cupcakes, but really they don't want to be a business owner. They don't want to manage the processes and all those other things. So they don't realize, well, they're going to need to be a marketer, salesperson, cashier. They need to clean up and all that. So they need to be a bookkeeper, accountant, and all those things. So it's quite a few hats to wear um, before you start as you get going.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. So, what kind of sets your business apart then in the services that you're offering to people there?
Obviously there's in the marketing world, in any world, you could say there's hundreds or probably thousands of other businesses that do it. Uh, and probably many that do it well, just like you could look in any area, look for, oh, there's hundreds of plumbers, electricians, and you could probably find many that do it well. For us, I mean, I'd say it kind of goes back to my military background, and I'd say integrity to service, dedication to service, and that we're not just promising things and making wild guarantees that we see a lot of people say we guarantee all these results. And for me, what I'd say is we guarantee the same work ethic that I've given for the last 20 some years to the country, that same integrity that I'm not going to promise you these things because I don't own Google, I don't own Facebook.
Hmm.
You can't guarantee that. You could guarantee that we're going to try to give you the same results that these people had. We think based on our experience that that will happen, but there's no guarantee. You can't guarantee that. So I think what
Right.
sets us apart is that yes, we do have experience with uh, certain industries, actually quite a few local services, but our actual main service niche is kind of automotive services. So automotive
Okay.
um, detailing, auto body shop, service repair, stuff like that. We do have other niches as well, but for us, those results kind of stand out. But not just the results; it's the fact that hey, our history and our experience and our with service and dedication to the country to is now transferred over to dedicating ourselves to helping small business owners. So
Yeah. Yeah, much like if you were going to go in for surgery, you understand that there are risks, you understand that there are things out of the surgeon's control, but you want the surgeon who is dedicated to making sure that while they are spending time with you, you are
yeah,
a priority, that they have done their due diligence and that they
absolutely.
are yeah, the best in their field. So,
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, a surgeon can say, well, we think this is based on my experience, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen.
Hmm.
But they can't guarantee once they start something, something won't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Feel free to use it.
Yeah.
So outside of the E-Myth book, what's a book that has been impactful for you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've read quite a few books. I'd say daily, for me and probably a lot of people listening, I mean, it would be for me, daily is the Bible. I read that daily. But one thing as far as, entrepreneurship, and I'd say even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you have a job, or even as a child, and I make my kids read this, so it's a super easy read. It's called I don't know if you can see that, but the great
Yeah, there we go. The greatest salesman in the world.
and it sounds like it's a sales book, and people say, "Oh, I don't want to read that." Well, it's really more about it's kind of an old story, and the story is basically about this. I believe it's a rug salesman, in the ancient Middle East type deal, and he's teaching this young apprentice his trade.
Hmm.
And I mean, you could probably read it in a day or a couple few hours. But one of the big things, so he passes down these scrolls, and it's kind of like the hidden secrets of his selling. But one of the things in here, it's chapter 10. It's called the scroll mark 3. And the main saying, what they have in each of these scrolls, they have kind of a repeated little saying, and it's "I will persist until I succeed." And I would say that's almost been kind of a life maybe motto. I can kind of remember my mom telling me this early in life. I think it was in elementary school, you do these little coat of arms deals, and they tell you a word. I think my mom said a word describing it was persistent, and I didn't really know what that meant back there, but uh, I think maybe her doing that kind of empowered me to live up to that. Anyway, the "I will persist until I succeed." Here's kind of a really powerful little paragraph from that book, and it starts out, "I will persist until I succeed. And I was not delivered unto this world in defeat, nor does failure come or course in my veins. I am not a sheep waiting to be prodded by my shepherd. I am a lion, and I refuse to talk, to walk, to sleep with the sheep. I will hear not those who weep and complain, for their disease is contagious. Let them join the sheep. The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny. I will persist until I succeed." And it goes on. I mean, just that paragraph is so powerful. And I think
Yeah.
especially for people in this audience, the entrepreneur, you're going to face daily struggles. I mean, there you might every week think, "Man, should I go get a job?"
Uh-huh.
And maybe you do need to get a job. I don't know. That's kind of an individual decision, but just thinking about you'll persist until you succeed. It's just so powerful to think about. I mean, kind of if you think about ants, they try hard, and I mean, you can't stop them. You can try to get rid of them, but they won't stop, and they'll
Yeah.
die trying to do whatever it is they got to do. And it's the same thing I think with for everyone in life, whether it's kids in high school or any education level, college, or people who have a job, just regular employees or employers or business owners. Just persisting until you succeed is just so powerful to think about.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. My next question was going to be if you had a quote or a thought or a mantra
Yeah.
or anything that sticks with you. And it sounds like that is definitely something that has
Yeah.
resonated with you.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, and kind of from the Bible, it's kind of the same thing. It's, I can do all things through Christ. And it's the same type of thing there that I kind of think about myself that uh I mean just persisting, not giving up, never giving
Mhm.
up. I could
Yeah.
probably give you a story about that back in the Navy. I was going through flight school. And you think going through high school and college, how good you think you were, because you do have to be good to get to that level. But you realize, I mean, I quickly realized I didn't have a clue how to study properly. I could study certain subjects, and I did well in those levels in high school and college, and I mean, I had scholarships and all that stuff. But Then you go to something you're not used to. And so in the Navy in flight school, so I wanted to be a pilot most of my life, and going through this flight school, really, I think it's basically three strikes and you're out. So you can fail three tests, and failing a test wasn't getting an F or whatever the number cutoff is now. It's basically an 80
Right.
C. It's
Mhm.
not bad, but yeah, it's a high level, high mark. And if you
Well,
get
because there's high risk in what you're doing.
yeah, exactly. So this was before even flying, even before setting a foot
Hmm.
in the aircraft, you're having to learn about engines and weather and stuff that you're not probably not used to. I mean, I wasn't used to studying that. But basically, you have to learn an engine and have a test on it a few days later. So and
Hmm.
you have to, it's basically memorizing this whole system. And I probably got a 70 something but yeah, I think I had failed two tests. And what they do is they bring you before a kind of a board with the kind of the senior people and try to see, do you really want to be here? And for some people, they said, "Nah, I don't really want to be here. It's not a big deal." Well, for me, yes, I still wanted to be there. And they said, "Okay, you can write something on the wall." And it kind of sounds strange, but it's behind this person who is asking the question. And the idea is that you write something that maybe gives someone else motivation. And I can remember writing on there, "Never give up."
Hmm.
And it kind of goes into this piece that I read years later. I'm thinking, okay, that was good. And yeah, I never gave up. And yeah, I made it through. I mean, it still wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And there's another time with that. It's kind of a swim test. You had to swim. I grew up in Florida. I could swim okay, but you also learn that, oh, you can't really swim that well with all this flight gear on.
Mhm. Might
So
be a little difficult.
yeah, and one of the tests was having to swim a mile in a flight suit.
Oof.
I think a flight suit, maybe a helmet. And again, I'm not, there are some people that just freestyled the whole thing and got done really in 10 minutes. And I'm sitting there, and it's about survival swimming. And so you're trying to swim these survival techniques, backstroke and side stroke, and it's slow and steady. And that's what I did, slow and steady. And I think I was probably the last one in the pool. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, it's probably an hour later, and I'm going, and someone comes up to me and grabs me, and I'm thinking, no, I'm still good. And they said, no, you're done. And I'm thinking, oh no, I failed. But I think they said, no, you're done. You passed. And they probably
Mhm.
thought, okay, if you can swim this long, you're gonna be fine. And I mean, so it's just that sense of never give up, persist until you succeed. I mean, I think it's so powerful in every part of your life. It's easy to say on here, but it's not always easy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. A side note about your ants, and this just came to me because I listened to a podcast on it recently. Ants will go into fights with termites.
Hmm.
And if there is an injured ant, those ants will figure out, they did some studies on this, how injured that ant is, if it's going to be left there, or
Oh,
if they're
wow.
going to bring it back to the colony and actually do like try to rehab this ant.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
even ants have a little bit of no
Yeah.
man left behind at a
Huh.
certain point. Um, so as an entrepreneur, and especially with your given background, how do you decompress?
For for most people, you don't. For
Mm-hmm.
most, I think, and that's probably the problem is most entrepreneurs or business leaders, or the higher you go, the more you're thinking about it. So, I mean, I think you do need to have a point where you cut off that time, and you whether it's your office at your house or going from your work back to home or your business, it's basically you have to force yourself to put the phone down and okay, I'm spending it with family, or if you don't have a family, whatever it is, friends or some kind of different activity that because you can become obsessed with that. And sometimes that can be good so you can succeed. There might be some time in your life where you do need to really focus on that. Uh, but I think also if you don't stop and actually, you know, put the phone down, turn off the computer, and don't turn off the notifications.
Yeah.
You can just drive yourself crazy. I mean, for me, kind of going back to the Bible, to me, I kind of focus on that and, have time with that I can spend reading the Bible and those types of things and going to church. And we have other groups that we're involved in, kind of Bible groups. And so it's not just business, even though those are the types of people I like to hang out with. But if you only think about that and only obsess with that, then I think you do miss out on some things in life. And uh, the other piece is I mean, I'm heavily involved in a local school system with I'm an elected school board member.
Okay.
I never thought that was it was really, never really something I wanted to do.
Hmm.
Someone asked me to do it, said I'd be good at it, but and I ran and was elected. And it's been really rewarding, just seeing that, even though it is really it's kind of an executive level volunteer job.
It absolutely is.
So, and, but at the same time, even though you're not getting paid for it as a business would, and I'm probably losing money on the business side, I think it can be more fulfilling. Kind of, like I said, I like to see people grow and reach their potential. So I think that's another way to decompress is just look at ways that you can give to someone that can't repay you for that. So
Yeah.
how, how can
Well,
you,
and even though with the school board, you are kind of paying it forward because these are kids that you're hoping
yeah,
someday may have businesses that you need to have services from, or they may have jobs where you
mhm,
go. So we do hope that we are raising
yeah,
kids and
yeah,
educating them in such a way that they are able to fill those roles when we move out
mhm,
of them.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me this afternoon. If there's anything here as we wrap up that you would like to add, and then also a way to invite people specifically to this conference in relation to what you're doing, I would love to just give you a moment to do that, to invite people and to add anything that you would like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for those people who are looking to increase their business, to get more revenue and to grow your business. If you're struggling with that, I would say that, this particular presentation I'll give, you will absolutely see some insights that maybe you haven't seen before. And by the end of it, you should definitely have a way to go and say, who is my target audience, how to figure out what the demand is for your service, and then how to reach them. Knowing those factors will really be able to help you grow. Because if you don't know how to reach your audience, you can't really present an offer to them.
I do think that's interesting. You said too about knowing your target audience because and your your demographic and all of that, because I think so many people get into business, especially when we're entrepreneurs, and we think that our friends and that
Mm,
our peer group are going to be a lot of our audience, our
right.
customers, and that's not usually how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and on that side, it's great to have friends who encourage you and get you to do things, but you do need to back it up with the data on what is actually needed, not just what you want to do, but what is needed. And I think most businesses that have a product or service, that is true. We could probably find that yes, there's this many thousands of people who are searching for you in this area or across the country or whatever it is. So most likely there is a demand for it. If there's not, then well, you might want to reconsider it. But yeah, there's probably is a demand for it. It's just about how to get in front of it. I would say, in this conference and what I do is whether it's, books like this or any book, any conference, I'm always trying to get an idea. If I can, even if you spend, well, with a book, it's just think about it. You can go and read books at the library that are free and you're getting the experience and knowledge of someone who may have had $1 billion business and you're reading it for free. Even if it costs you $20, it's you're getting these incredible ideas from people who have gone before you and done that. So I think that's the idea of a conference like this is no matter what it costs you, you could probably get, 10 times as much value out of it or quite a lot more. So just try to think about that. Every time I listen to a speaker, try to think about what's one idea you can get from that speaker. What's one idea that you can capture from that book or that podcast or whatever it is. So, because I think everyone has some kind of value to give. And I think it's just our our job and our duty to kind of receive that, take in whatever kind of value it is and go with it and use it for yourself.
Well, thank you so much, James, for spending some time with me. I look forward to meeting you in person on May 6th at the E3 Small Business Conference for SCORE. And we'll see you then as one of our panelists. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. See you
All
then.
right. All right. Thanks, James.